What's going on? My name is Hugh. Thanks for clicking on this video. So you want to get good at Spider-Man? You've come to the right place. Whether you're just now picking up the hero, or you've had some playtime on Spidey, I promise you'll learn at least something from this video. For some credibility, I have a 60% win rate this season, over 75 hours across 2 accounts, and have consistently hit GM with Spider-Man every season since launch. Stats-wise, I have 450 KOs this season, 300 of those being final hits, and 175 solo kills. I can definitely give the enemy backline a hard time, and I want you to do the same. I finally feel I have a deep understanding of how Spider-Man works, and I want to share it with my fellow webheads. I firmly believe anyone can wear the mask, and if played correctly, he can work very well in this current meta. That's the catch, he has to be played very correctly. The best part of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man's kit is how versatile it can be. What other hero can get a pick on the enemies and immediately be at their spawn, waiting to kill them again, cancel some of the strongest ultimates in the game, or just be as rewarding to play as Spidey. We're going to be covering a lot of information today in this video. We'll be taking a look at keybinds, ability basics, animation cancels and hero-specific techs, your basic combos, advanced combos, your playstyles, and finally, hero matchups. Every section will be time-stamped, so feel free to skip sections you might not need or want to come back to later. You can skip around, but I definitely recommend at least watching it all the way through in order first time. I build up off of previous sections throughout this video, so if this is your first time watching and you don't know how to web swing animation cancel, you're gonna have a rough time in the combo section. Anyways, enough of the yapping, let's get down to business. Going down the hero settings list, you need to have hold to swing on. If you don't have hold to swing on, you won't be able to do some of the animation cancels that are integral to his kit. Auto swing is another setting that has got to go. If you have auto swing enabled, you won't be able to access one of Spider-Man's main movement techs, the B-hop. If you turn off auto swing, it'll enable you to web zip and have much more control over where you're swinging across the battlefield. Hold to wall crawl also needs to be turned on. If you have hold to wall crawl on and you get stuck on a wall, you can just let go of jump and you'll be back off. It also enables you to do a scroll jump up the wall, like this. My direction of wall crawling is set to advance towards my crosshair, mainly so I can do silly stuff like this. But really, it's a quality of life thing. It gives you more control instead of automatically advancing upwards. If you play any other hero that wall crawls, like Venom, Rocket, or Jeff, I recommend changing this setting for them too. One thing I do that has personally worked for me is swapping my melee and web shooters around. I can aim my webs a bit better with my M1 instead of my M2. Another good thing to do is to bind jump to your mouse wheel. Either up or down is fine, whatever you feel more comfortable with. If you have scroll set to jump, you can spam overheads and also do that wall climb tech I briefly showed earlier. Now your get over here targeting is another very important setting to change. We will be changing this twice. One key will be used to pull us towards the enemy, the other to pull the enemy to us. Our get over here targeting is the button that we're going to be pushing to pull us towards the enemy, which I have mine on my side buttons. If we scroll down to the ability 1 setting, you want to change that to the button you want to press to pull enemies towards you. Doing it in this way prevents any accidental web whiffing because we have one bind specifically set to pull us towards our enemy. This also enables us to tag an enemy with our web tracers and pull them towards us, allowing us to do a much better one-shot combo than the standard bread and butter combo you're all used to.
Alright, so real quickly, I wanted to reiterate that point. If I don't tag this bot with a web, and I'm pressing my side buttons, you guys can see my inputs. I'm not going anywhere. If I don't have the setting on, I press the side button and I whiff. That's what I mean by web whiffing. But because we have 2 different binds for 2 different abilities, if I press R, it'll go out, but if I press my side button, it doesn't go anywhere.
Spidey's basic melee attack doesn't do much damage on its own, but if you weave his other primary attack, his web cluster, in with his melee attacks, it does a lot more damage. This is a very big core concept for Spidey, and you definitely need to be weaving clusters into your attacks. His primary melee attack has a 3-hit string, which goes punch, punch, kick, with the kick doing slightly more damage at the end. He also has another special melee attack, which is the overhead slam. The overhead slam does significantly more damage than all of his other primary attacks, which happens after one of 3 things are fulfilled. You double jump, you jump off a wall, or you detach from a web swing. If you chain all 3 of these things together, it is possible to get multiple down slams in a row, making you a much harder target to hit and increasing your DPS output. Now, onto his abilities. Firstly, we'll take a look at his get over here, especially after changing our binds. I'll use my personal binds for this example. If we tag an enemy with our spider tracers, and we press our side buttons, we pull ourselves to the enemy, nothing special. But if we press R, we gain access to his hook, which in my opinion is a very underutilized part of his kit by the community. A lot of people forget he has a hook, and not to mention it's 20-meter range. You can end up punishing a lot of overextended players by pulling him into you and your team. I personally played a lot of Overwatch, and I sometimes think of how I would use Roadhog's hook in whatever scenario I'm in. Now, onto his web swing. Spidey's web swing is by far his best ability. There's not been another character in the entirety of competitive hero shooters that can move like our friendly neighborhood Spidey can. His web swing allows him to do rollouts that can touch the enemy spawn door before you try to sneak a bite of food while you're waiting to respawn. If you have followed my guide up to now, you should have auto swing off. Turning the setting off gives you access to his secret ability, his web zip. Now this is what I want you to do. I want you to go into the practice range and pick Spidey. Now look straight ahead. I want you to imagine a line going horizontally straight through your screen, right through the middle of your crosshair. Any web shot above this line will be Spider-Man's normal web swing. Any web shot below this line will be his new ability, the web zip. His web zip propels him very fast in a straight line to wherever your web was shot. One thing you will notice though, is at the end of his web zip, he does this very slow animation at the end of it. You can cancel this. As soon as you reach the end of your line, simply shoot a web cluster. I highly recommend doing this during a normal web swing as well. If you swing very high up into the air, after a certain amount of time, you'll enter this freefall animation. Although it looks cool, and it makes me feel like I'm playing the Insomniac Spider-Man game, it is very predictable for enemies to hit you and possibly kill you. To avoid this, simply throw out a cluster right before you enter the animation, and you'll be good to go.
Okay, one other concept I forgot to cover. With your web zip, if your get over here is on cooldown and you need to take out like this Luna or something, so you can web zip to her feet and use the cluster cancel and hit her with that instead of shooting it at the floor, and you can do a combo. It'll look something like this. Just a nice little thing to have in your back pocket when your get over here is on cooldown. I use this a lot actually.
Now I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be hard to practice his web zip and normal swing, but put your reps in and it'll be second nature. Now finally, onto his uppercut. His uppercut is his weakest ability in his kit, but that doesn't mean it's not strong. His uppercut is a 4-meter AoE sphere around Spider-Man. It's not just directly in front of him, and once he makes contact with his enemy, they launch up with him. Nothing special, but still a very good ability when strung into combos. If you use his uppercut in tandem with his web zip or normal swing, our favorite Spider can go flying across the map with very little effort.
Alright, one little concept I want to teach you guys is, it's not really a tech and it's not really a combo, it's just more of an initiator. It's called the drive-by uppercut. So what you're going to do is you're going to web zip at the enemy's feet, and as you fly by, you tag them with the tracer and you uppercut. It looks something like this. The timing is a little bit tighter because of the recent nerfs, but the concept is still there. What I like to do is use this as an initiator so I can come back and hit it with my old bread and butter combo. And that looks something like this. Hitting that first initial drive-by will give me just enough damage to swing back and hit him with the bread and butter. Super effective, and I don't really see a lot of Spider-Man doing that. I see them doing drive-bys, but I don't see them following back up on it.
If you've noticed by now, Spider-Man's abilities aren't that great separately, but if you combine a couple, like web swing uppercut, down slam uppercut, or web zip into a hook, you can get exponentially more value instead of using them on their own. I'm sure you know this by now, Spidey plays a lot like a fighting game character, and I really think that's where most of his appeal comes from. Alright, okay, I know. We've got one more section before we get to what you've been waiting for. I promise the wait will be very much worth it. Just put your patience hat on, you little goobers, we'll be okay. If you learn all of these animation cancels now, it'll make your life so much easier for when learning all of your combos in the next section. Firstly, I'm going to cover the uppercut animation cancel. Doing this allows you to have more versatility after you uppercut, as you're not fully locked into the animation. This cancel is very critical to your success as a Spidey player. Learning this cancel will help you secure kills easier and even enable you to do those TikTok polls you guys see all over the Rivals community, which yes, we will be covering how to do that in the advanced combos section.
Okay, in order to do the uppercut animation cancel, it's very simple. You do need to have hold to swing on, so if you haven't turned that on already, go ahead and do that right now. And all it is about halfway through your uppercut animation, you just tap your web button, just like that. I turned off ability cooldowns just to show you that it doesn't take a web even if you throw it out. Just like that. One thing you want to be aware of is if you're close to a ceiling or you're close to a wall, you will attach and you will lose a web from it. Like that. You see how it's down to 2? I commonly run into this problem when I'm trying to do yo-yos. I end up web zipping back to the floor, and all you need to do to avoid that is to just simply look up in the sky. It's going to look something like this. Just like that.
One minor thing I forgot to mention is you can animation cancel his uppercut with your ult. I do this every time before I ult, just because it adds that little bit of extra DPS to my already tickle monster ult. Next is the B-hop. If you've been in the competitive shooter space for longer than 20 minutes, you know the basic premise. B-hopping is carrying momentum through a series of jumps along the ground. Here's how you do it with our local webhead.
Okay, so the first step that you want to do when you're learning how to B-hop is I recommend you come down into this part of the practice range and then you turn on your infinite abilities. So after that, we're going to break it down into 5 different steps. The steps are web zip, and then you're going to cluster cancel, and then immediately after you cluster cancel, you're going to jump, and then that 5th step is just chaining your jumps. So if you put it all together, it's going to look something like this. One other thing I'd like to mention is these are all single jumps. You're doing no double jumps here. That's how I know you got the timing off, is if you see a double jump.
Another animation cancel we can do has to do with Spidey's web shooters and melee. If you time it correctly, you can get a very big burst of DPS off.
Alright, so to practice the melee web shooter combo, you're going to want to do 2 things first. Firstly, if you have it, I recommend equipping the Spider Oni skin. Secondly, I want you to come over here to this Luna and just change it over to Groot. So if you hold down melee, you'll notice Spidey has a 3-hit string. With this combo, you won't be able to do it on the 3rd hit because it's a longer animation. All it is you're punching and then you're shooting your web. It's just going to look like this. You can do it 2 times in a row and then you have to let it reset. If any of you guys have played Doctor Strange, it's the same concept. You're just shooting your primary and then you're holding up your shield. Just like that. And so the reason I had you pick the Spider Oni skin is if you come over to this Groot and you do the combo on him, you'll get a feedback. You hear that? You hear the bell? If you get that audio feedback, you know you're doing it right. This is how I learned it, and this is how I recommend everyone should learn this. Now, I know some of you might want to skip over this part, but this animation cancel is super important to learn because we're going to be building off of this in both the basic and advanced combos. If you get this animation cancel down, doing his new one-shot combo is going to be a hell of a lot easier.
Alright, one more animation cancel you can do is from the Spider God, the Spider Messiah, the Spider CEO himself, Fame. All of his socials will be linked down below. It's called the Fame Stack. The Fame Stack consists of stacking your get over here with your uppercut. I personally don't use this tech often, but it's always good to have in the bag.
Okay, so the Fame Stack is another really simple tech. It just takes precise timing. This tech is actually the reason why I bound my get over here and my uppercut onto my side buttons. So this only works if you're within his uppercut range, so 4 meters, so if you're about here. All you're going to do is tag this bot and you're going to press your get over here and your uppercut at the same time. It's going to look just like this. And the reason I have those on my side buttons is I can just do this and press this and I did the tech. Just like that. This is a pretty niche tech because I've used it, you know, only once or twice in an actual game. But it's still good to have in your belt, like I said earlier.
Now, finally, with all that out of the way, let's get into the combos. Okay, so the biggest thing I want to cover right out of the gate now that Symbiote is removed, do not, I repeat, do not use his old bread and butter combo unless one of 3 things has happened. You notice your target has already gotten a little bit of poke damage and doing your bread and butter is guaranteed to kill. Or you are 1v1ing a character with low mobility who is isolated from their team and can do the bread and butter into your uppercut cancel and a down slam or a couple clushes will kill them. Or 3, you're 1v1ing a flyer and you need that get over here to close the gap. Other than those 3 situations, and honestly those last 2 are super niche, you don't want to be using that combo anymore. The combos that I end up personally using the most are these 2. This is a combo, and what I like to call the Batman combo. This combo is a combo created by another Spidey player, second, which I'll give a link to his socials below. I'll be covering that combo in the advanced combo section. And the Batman combo is great for when you're getting a drop on your enemies and completely catching them by surprise. I personally like to use this combo while I'm waiting for my targets to walk underneath the doorway or somewhere where I can drop directly onto them. Let me teach you how to do the Batman combo.
The reason I call it the Batman combo is because it works super well if you're coming at an enemy from height. It's very unreactable. They don't know what just hit him right there. You can also come at him like this too. It's a nice little combo. Catch your enemies by surprise and then you can get out super quick. This combo can kill up to 275 HP health heroes. It only takes 1 cooldown. That's the big thing. So all I'm doing is I'm shooting a tracer, I'm hitting him with the overhead slam, and I'm canceling the overhead slam with a cluster, and then I'm uppercutting. So super slow, it's going to look just like this. And if you look at my cooldowns, I've only used 1 cooldown. That's the best part about this combo. For the 300 HP variant, all you're doing after the uppercut is animation canceling and throwing out a cluster. That'll look like this.
This kitty has been declawed.
And here's the slow version.
This kitty has been declawed.
And then we also have a Mr. Fantastic variant, which looks like this. All I'm doing after that cluster cancel is just I'm adding a down slam. But now we're playing into the territory of tank buster combos, and we'll get to that point in the next section. Alright, so remember the melee animation cancel I taught you guys earlier? We're going to be using this into a full combo now, and it's super simple. This also only takes one cooldown. So all you're doing is tagging them with the tracer first, doing your melee cancel, and then you're uppercutting. If you put it all together, it's going to look something like this. I'll slow it down so you guys can see it better. So it's tracer, animation cancel, uppercut. This also has a 275 HP variant. All you're doing is you're adding that uppercut cancel at the end into a cluster. It's gonna look something like this. Just like that. I'll slow that part down for you guys again. So it's cluster, animation cancel, uppercut cancel. Here's that same combo, but you're just starting with a pole instead. I recommend that you master this combo because we're going to be building off of it in our advanced combo section for your new bread and butter combo. And then here's what the old bread and butter combo used to be. You can either end that last part with a cluster or an overhead. Here's the overhead variant. The overhead variant is great for when your target's getting healed because you do that little bit extra burst of damage with that overhead.
Now, onto the advanced stuff. The basic combos can really get you out of the metal ranks, but after that, you'll find you have more difficulty getting kills more consistently with the basic combos. The higher you go in elo, the less mistakes people make, and the harder it is to pull off something like the full combo, which becomes very reactable. Now this combo right here, this is a secret sauce. After you get this down, you'll notice a very sizable impact in the kills that you can score, as opposed to his old bread and butter combo with the symbiote. This combo has been my #1 go-to combo in GM+. It nets me more consistent kills, and you are barely visible on the enemy screen. This is what you look like. You can't even see me. This is the true unreactable combo. You can dodge Mantis sleeps, Hella Suns, Bucky shifts, you name it. People were complaining about Symbiote being unreactable, but at least you could stun Spidey while he was using his get over here. Now, the only thing that stands in your way of getting a kill is your own ability to land this combo.
Alright, so you guys remember the pull combo I taught you earlier and how I said it was really important to master that? The combo is essentially the pull combo, but you're just mixing in jumps between each attack. Your final result is going to look something like this. All I'm doing is shooting a tracer, pulling, and then after I've pulled, I jump once, do the animation cancel, and then jump again. So you end up really high on top of them. And here's the slow version. And then all other previous variants we talked about in the full combo still apply here. And the Mr. Fantastic version. So on the Black Panther variant, I'm just uppercutting and then adding a cluster at the end. And then for the Mr. Fantastic, I'm doing the same thing, but adding an overhead.
The yo-yo combo is incredibly versatile. You can pull Loki out of his greens, enemies out of support ults, and in Cloak and Dagger's case, cancel them entirely. This is more of a flashier combo, but it still is very, very useful.
Okay, so the only animation cancel you really need to learn for this one is your hook cancel. So all you're doing, as soon as your web makes contact with the enemy, you're throwing out a web and then you're hitting them with a cluster. But you don't want to throw it out too soon, otherwise your enemy won't go anywhere. If you're doing it successfully, it's going to look like this. This is what it looks like if you throw it out too soon. Just like that. See how I didn't go anywhere? You want to let them start the animation of coming to you, and then you're throwing out a web and hitting it with a cluster. Not a lot of people talk about that one. That's a secret sauce. I definitely recommend mastering that. And so one thing I forgot to mention is when my hook is connecting, I'm hitting my double jump. So I'm swinging up into the air, hook canceling, double jump, and then Batman combo. I'll slow that down so you can see my inputs a little bit better. There's other variations, but I find that that one has the best success rate for me.
Now, since we're on the topic of pulling our enemies, let's get this big one out of the way. I've received so many comments and DMs from my TikTok and Instagram on how to do this, even after putting out a 60-second video. So we'll go more in depth here. And here's how to do the TikTok pull.
Alright, so from my personal experience, there's two different ways that you can do this. There's the easier way when you're first learning it, and then the way that I do it now. If you want to learn the easier way, I have a different short form video that I'll link below that you can take a look at and learn it that way. I'm going to teach you the way that I currently do it right now, and it's a little bit trickier to get the timing down. So what we're doing is we're inputting 6 different button presses all in a short amount of time. As a prerequisite to this, I definitely recommend mastering that uppercut cancel, but in all of our other cancels, we've been throwing out a cluster, or we've been throwing out a cluster overhead. This one, we're going to be throwing out our hook. So if you have the same binds as me, it's going to be Shift R. Another prerequisite I definitely recommend you master is the B-hop, because we're going to be starting with that. That's how we're going to be getting our momentum. All right, let's get down to business. All right, so step 1 is to hit a B-hop. Step 2, after B-hopping, you're immediately going to hit an uppercut. It's going to look like this. And then while we uppercut, we're going to hit that uppercut animation cancel into our hook. So it'll look something like this. I also recommend that if you're first learning this, you come out into here. This ledge gives you really good practice to pull these 2 bots off. And then for moving practice, I like to use these 3. And then I'll just keep constantly practicing my pulls on these moving targets here. I'll just go back and forth. One thing that makes it a little bit easier is if you hit your enemy with an uppercut, as you're hitting the pull tech, it launches them up pretty predictably. It's just like that drive-by uppercut concept I taught you guys earlier. Bonk. Alright, so there is a variation of this. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It is the backwards pull. It's not really practical by any means. It's super flashy. Honestly, man, I'm not sure why this works, but it just does. If anyone knows why, please let me know. I would love to educate myself on it. I personally don't really use this often because I believe it's considered more of a bug than an actual tech, because I've had it consistently work on about 60 frames. That's why my frame rate is locked, and anything higher, the game will just automatically force you forwards. So all you guys are doing is holding S while you're doing the entire tech. Just like that. I'll show a side-by-side comparison of my inputs for the normal tech and then for the backwards tech. Again, I find it most consistent at 60 FPS locked. Anything higher than that, then the game is just automatically going to force you into a normal B-hop pull. Well, you console Spidey mains are going to have a field day with this one. And then I may be wrong on this, but I believe this was popularized by another Spidey main. You know, Kiddo, I might be picking that up. Here's his socials. His socials are going to be on screen. He is the only one who I've ever seen do it consistently and post consistent clips about it.
The Tank Buster combo is unique compared to the other Spidey combos. It is unique in the fact that at the end of the first overhead slam, you can just repeat the overhead slam into an uppercut, which is technically the Batman combo until the tank is dead. I find that while you're doing the Batman combo, if you circle around the tank, it's incredibly hard for them to hit you.
You really shouldn't be going for tanks as Spider-Man, but if you have to go for a tank, like if it's a 1v1 and you guys are alone on the point and you have to win it for your team, use this combo. There's a couple different variations as to how you can start this combo. You can start it with this old bread and butter combo like this. Or personally, how I started with the combo. I feel like they do about the same amount of damage, maybe combo a little bit more. Alright, so I've turned off my cooldown so you can see this is possible in an actual game. So I'm going to start my variation with the combo, and this is why it was really important that you guys learned the Batman combo earlier, because the Batman combo is going to be loot. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Here's what it looks like full speed. Alright, so I missed the last cluster there, but you guys get the point. Alright, so after I hit my combo and I hit that uppercut, I'm animation canceling into a down slam, and then I'm double jumping again. So something that I forgot to mention earlier is that the down slam has a little bit of a recovery frame, and so if you shoot a cluster, you cancel that. That's very important here for the Tank Buster combo. So again, I'm comboing, down slam, cluster, down slam, uppercut, I'm just repeatedly hitting him with down slams. All right, so here's the slow version for you guys. So it's a combo, down slam, cluster, down slam, cluster, uppercut, cancel, down slam, cluster. One other thing I like to do is I like to spin around the tank like this, just to make its life harder so he can't really hit me. Just like that. And then if he's still not dead, you can keep spamming that Batman combo, and you should die relatively quickly. Alright, so the fame combo is pretty easy once you know how to fame stack. All you're doing is adding an overhead slam right before you hit the stack. At full speed, it's going to look something like this. And here's the slow version. All I'm doing, down slam, cluster, fame stack. Super simple. The fame stack is a niche tech anyway, but again, it's still nice to have in your back pocket.
There's a couple different playstyles you can use with Spider-Man, but firstly, I want to talk about Spidey's gameplay loop. A gameplay loop is defined as a repeatable sequence of actions the players engage in that makes up the primary flow of your player's experience. Spider-Man's loop happens to be swing in, do a combo on the enemy backline, get a pick or force cooldowns, and swing out. He is a very much get in and out type of character. If you overstay your welcome, you can get punished very easily. If you know your mechanics are solid, but you still seem to feel like you're dying too much, it might be something else entirely, which brings me to our next section, timing. The biggest thing I see Spidey players get wrong outside of mechanics is timing. Timing is such a crucial skill to develop, especially when you're playing a dive hero like Spider-Man. You can't just swing in off cooldown and dive 1v6. That's how Spidey players got us such a bad rep. We've all seen it before. They dive in, don't wait for their team to be distracted or force enemy cooldowns, and end up going 3-12, type GG no heals, and it's not a fun experience for anyone. But you're not like those guys. You're different. You wait for your team to push in, distract the enemy before you make your move. What I personally like to do is pincer the enemy. I swing in early, wait for my team to distract the enemy, and then make my move. Even if the enemy sees me swing in initially, they won't be ready for my actual dive. Spider-Man is not an initiative DPS. You can initiate fights with an early pick if you're lucky, but most of the time you'll just end up with forced cooldowns and have to sit back while your team engages before you get your cooldowns back. Don't get me wrong, in some situations he can get an early pick by finding an isolated target, which doesn't really happen in higher elo. If you wait for your team to engage, you can take advantage of distracted tanks or DPS players and be ready to pounce on their supports. Even if you dive and the enemy turns for you, or even better, chases you, your team can take advantage of that by taking space or shooting players turning for you in the back. Now, let's say you have a team fight breaking out, and you notice the enemy Luna Snow is alone in the back, playing with their other support. While your team is fighting in the front line, you are pincering their back line, and one of two things can happen. One, you get a pick on the enemy support, which obviously is the best option. Or two, someone turns to deal with you, and because they turn to deal with you, your team is now fighting a 4v5. Once you get higher in elo, you won't be able to pick supports off as easy. You'll end up forcing more cooldowns, like Loki Greens, Luna Shift, Cloak Fade, or Mag Bubble. Imagine you force something like Mag Bubble, and the enemy cloak ults, and their mag doesn't have bubble to save them from your mag dunking on them, all because you forced bubble just a couple seconds earlier. If you manage to force one of those cooldowns early, that can very easily snowball into a pick, or even better, a one-team fight. The most important thing you can do on Spider-Man is to stay alive. Something that happens with this hero is that you get a full combo onto a support or DPS, and they just barely manage to slip away with 1 HP. Do not risk your life to chase them. As long as you are staying alive, you are creating backline pressure and you are forcing your enemy to make a decision. Either they ignore you and try to run down your team and risk losing their backline, or turn and deal with you and ignore your team. And usually, if you force the enemy to make a decision, they make the wrong one. Spidey has two major playstyles currently. One is this backline assassin playstyle, which is much more popular than the second playstyle I'm about to teach you about, Displacement Spidey. Displacement Spidey was a term coined by Matthew, and all of his socials are linked below as well. I'm still educating myself on the Displacement Spidey playstyle, but I will do my best to explain what has worked for me so far. Playing Displacement Spidey is less about getting picks on their backline and more about disrupting the enemy team, as the name suggests. I referred to Spider-Man's pull as Roadhog's hook earlier, and this playstyle feeds into that directly. Let's say you see an enemy at a position and you want to punish that. How do you do that as Spider-Man? You hook him into your team. If you followed my settings guide from earlier in this video, that should be no problem for you. Let's say an enemy Hulk just jumped into your team, and right as he's about to jump out, you hook him back in, and that's an easy kill. Or a Mr. Fantastic is fridge walking back to his team, and as soon as he goes back to his normal form, you hook him back in. If you also get very good at the pull tech like I taught you earlier, you can end up pulling people who are playing in position directly out of position.
Honestly, man, shout out Matthew.
He is the best Spidey I've seen use this playstyle, and you can learn a lot from one of his streams or checking out any of his other content. I wanted to shed light on this playstyle because, in my opinion, it is honestly so underutilized by the Spidey community, and it is very, very effective in GM+. The other, more popular playstyle is playing for those backline assassinations. It's very simple. You dive in, try to get a pick on the enemy supports or force cooldowns, and swing out. This playstyle relies heavily on having good game sense and, more importantly, timing. If you're having any trouble with this playstyle, refer back to my section on timing, and that's sure to help you out. A big thing about the assassination playstyle is knowing who to go for and when. Sometimes diving the enemy backline off cooldown isn't the best idea. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're playing Spider-Man with a Hawkeye on Clintar, and you're on defense. You're playing into a Hawkeye mirror. Let's say the enemy has Hawkeye Punisher. You've already killed their backline 6 times each, but the enemy still pushed the payload all the way to the end. While you were harassing their backline, your Hawkeye was getting hard diffed by the enemy. Once the enemy takes out your sniper, he has free reign across the battlefield to shoot whoever he wants. How do you think you would handle this? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Okay, ready? Me personally, I would help my Hawkeye by prioritizing the enemy Hawkeye and having him choose to either deal with me or deal with my sniper. Sure, I might die more and kill a little bit less, but that slight change in priority from their backline to their Hawkeye helps my sniper headshot him first, which gives my Hawkeye a much bigger advantage, so that way he can pop off and win us the game, because we all know Spidey is F tier this season. We're not doing anything to help win games. Finding the enemy's win condition and stopping that from happening is such an important thing to understand, and it's a very big factor in the way I've climbed this season. In that previous example, the enemy's win condition was their Hawkeye killing our whole team. It's a very generalized example, but the concept is still important. If you want me to talk about win condition in a different video, please let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make another video about this. Now finally, matchups. As a Spidey player, you want to be taking advantageous fights and avoiding disadvantageous ones. As a general rule of thumb, diving supports is always good. Outside of Rocket Raccoon and Jeff, usually any support is a very easy dive target. Any heroes with low mobility and no escape are also very good targets. Think Moon Knight, Punisher, or Namor without his bubble. We'll go roll by roll here. I'll avoid talking about tanks as much because you shouldn't really be spending most of your time diving tanks. My personal dive pyramid was the enemy win condition at the top, directly below that are the supports, and then below that are the DPS, and at the very bottom are the tanks. For supports, I recommend memorizing how much health each support hero has so that you know which combo to use on which hero. If you don't want to look up the list or test it for yourself, I'll give it to you here. Rocket has 250, Mantis has 250, Loki has 250, Adam has 250, but he effectively has 3 health bars with his E, Luna has 275, Cloak and Dagger has 250, Ultron has 250, Invisible Woman has 275, and Jeff has 250. Now, how to play against each hero. I generally avoid Rocket players because hitting a full combo on them with both of their shifts up is very hard to do. But if you manage to catch a Rocket off guard, this combo can make very quick work of him. With Mantis, you have to respect her sleep. It is a very big AoE that can stun you for 3.5 seconds, and if she hits it on you, she can one-shot you. But as long as you avoid the stun and dodge her primary fire, you should be okay here. Loki has a lot of cooldowns you can use to escape your combos. You never really will be able to kill a good Loki, more so force his cooldowns so your team can capitalize off of them. One tip I can give is for when he uses his green, you can hit the yo-yo combo I taught you earlier to pull him out of his greens and remove him from the fight entirely. If his team is not peeling for him, Adam is a very easy dive target. The part you have to be careful about is his E. He effectively has 3 health bars that you have to kill through, so you need to use a longer combo for him. But then, that gives him more of an opportunity to kill you. Luna has the same story as Mantis. You need to respect her primary fire and her snowball, but if you use this combo, you shouldn't have too much trouble here. Cloak and Dagger is the only other support I specifically saved my yo-yo for the same reason as Loki. Once you dive a Cloak and Dagger, they immediately will fade up into the sky, throw down their healing bubble, and fight you in it. If you use your yo-yo combo or the combo, you can pull them out of their self-heal and take them out relatively easily. Ultron is a pain to deal with as Spidey. You have to respect his hit scan beam, and he can negate your combo if he uses his shifts or his right click in the middle of your combo. But if you force those abilities early, he's as easy to deal with as Season 0 Iron Man. Sue is another easy target for Spidey, you just have to respect your push. I like to tag her with a web tracer and do a drive-by uppercut to force it out early, and then swing back for a bread and butter combo. Jeff and Rocket are very similar, but Jeff is a little bit easier to deal with. If you catch him off guard and hit him with this combo, even using his shift, Jeff will still get killed by you. For DPS, I'll keep this one short. I'll divide them into two categories: matchups that favor you and matchups that don't favor you. Characters you should be diving are Hawkeye, Storm, Punisher without a shotgun out, Black Panther, Widow sometimes only by using the Batman combo, Squirrel Girl, Moon Knight, Iron Man, Namor without a squids, and especially after his bubble is being forced, Wolverine, and Torch. Characters you want to avoid are Magic, Hela, Wanda, Star-Lord, Bucky, Iron Fist, Psylocke, and Mr. Fantastic. And as for the mirror matchup, always take the Spidey 1v1. If you absolutely have to 1v1 a tank, which I strongly recommend you do not, here are your best targets. You should go for Groot, Mag, Strange, and Emma when she's not in her diamond form. Characters you want to avoid are Cap, Penny, Venom, Thor, Emma when she's in her diamond form, and the Payne brothers. I don't feel I need to explain my reasoning behind that list, but if anyone's confused, ask in the comments. I always respond to them. And with that, there's everything I know about this hero. I'm still learning, and considering this is my first YouTube video, I'll probably end up remaking this guide at some point. If there's anything else I missed, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to add revisions in the description, and if I got anything wrong or missed anything. I also want to shout out all of these beautiful Spidey players who I learned the most from and continue to learn every day from. Definitely check out everyone I mentioned in this video. There's something to learn from all of us. I hope you guys have a good day or afternoon or night, and hope you learned something from this. If you did, a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated, but never expected. A lot of work went into this one, and I'm super proud of how it turned out. Alright, enough yapping. Keep grinding and stay sticky, everyone.